Wow. I don't even know what to say. That was crazy. 3.5 hours of nonsense and a lot of threats and a lot of legal stuff to work with.
And money that you thought you were making and the popularity you thought you were making is all going to be spent on attorney's fees. And I don't care if I win or lose. I just want you to spend money.
Yikes. You messed up, dude. You messed up, dude. And I actually warned him about this. Career ending. So career ending that to turn off the comments on his own video. And the reason why he had to turn off the comments is because people see how he's lying. They see the lies. They see the God complex. They see the narcissism. They see the spirit, really, behind this man. And that is not at all what the flower of life embodies. That is not at all what the ancient Egyptians embodied. So it just goes to show that he's getting emotional. And in a way, I feel like Gladiator. If you haven't seen the first Gladiator, do yourself a favor and do it. Because this was a guy who got betrayed by his own men when the emperor tried to turn them against him, even though he was once on the emperor's team, this new emperor. And the emperor he was serving is a man named Marcus Aurelius. This movie is based off a true story. I don't know how true it actually is, but either way, the story hits the soul. It's my favorite movie. The son of the emperor kills the emperor because he has this hunger for power, and he'll do whatever it takes to succeed, and even if it means killing his own dad, because then his son gets the empire. But his dad told him, hey, Gladiator, otherwise known as Maximus Decimus Meridius, is going to get the throne because, my son, I love you, but you're not fit to be a king. So his son, because of his ego and his pride, can't stand the idea of not getting the throne. So he tries to kill Maximus, and his own men disrespect him so much that he puts a hit on Maximus, and he doesn't kill him, and Maximus skeets away. And then his own men, who don't even respect him enough to tell them the truth about Maximus, tells their new king he is dead when he's not dead. He's not dead. So they kill his wife, they kill his children, and they take in Maximus as a slave. And the slave rises up and fights in the gladiator arena, a nobody, but he's on the inside now. And he fights because he's a real warrior who has real knowledge and is really connected to God. And he fights and he wins. And he grabs the attention of Commodus, I believe that's his name, but his identity is anonymous. And he wins the favor of the Roman Empire in terms of the crowd. And Commodus starts kind of freaking out. They're loving Gladiator more than him, and his ego can't take it. So he comprises this plan, and the plan he thinks is so genius. He says, I'm going to fight Gladiator, the real warrior, in front of all these people and win. And you think, wow, he's actually willing to fight. He even tricks Maximus. Maximus goes, you'll fight me in fair battle? He goes, of course. He's like, let's do it. And right as they're about to fight, Commodus, like a coward, stabs Maximus with a poisoned blade in his side. They seal up the wound, and they send him into the arena to fight the king of Rome. Or should I say the shadow king of Rome. If you study any Jungian psychology, this stuff is super easy to identify. The Shadow King. And if you study the Shadow King, you will see the dark triad personality that plays out. And I had to learn this because I had to figure out these people because I've been abused by them my whole life. And in the Bible, it talks about how you have to be as innocent as a dove and as wise as a serpent. So they go into the arena. And even though Maximus Decimus Meridius, the commander of the armies of the north, the general of the Felix legions, and the loyal servant to the true emperor, Jesus Christ, Marcus Aurelius, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and he says, I will have my vengeance in this life or the next. And then they fight. Well, that came earlier. That's earlier, but I'm fast forwarding. You got to watch the movie. But then they fight, and he's got this wound. But see, Maximus has a real warrior spirit. Comitius doesn't. He's lied and cheated his whole life to get ahead. He used people. He killed his own dad to get ahead. So he's not a real king. He's a shadow king. Maximus, on the other hand, he's a nobody, but he's a real king because of what he stands for. Strength and honor. And then it's the battle of the century. Comitius comes out and he's already playing dirty. He's got the lions. He kicks dirt in Maximus's eyes. But Maximus is connected to God. And when he should have lost, when all of the odds were against him, he tapped into his spirit. Something that can't be penetrated by anybody. It's his spirit to God, to source whatever you believe in. I believe it's God. And as he's dying, because the poison's setting in, he kills Comitius and takes back the Roman Empire. And he goes down a hero, lost his life, but he did what was right in the name of truth, in the name of love. And he was revered as a hero. It's my favorite movie for a reason. And I'm just getting started. And I'm not saying I'm as great as Maximus, but we have to have role models. And Mel Gibson, Jim Caviezel, Tim Ballard, Jesus Christ, Jordan Peterson. These are my heroes. My old heroes used to be Tony Robbins, Joe Dispenza, Billy Carson. Those are not my heroes anymore. I believe in fighting for truth. There's a clip I want to play from you. It touches my heart. I'm likely going to cry, forewarning. And I got a lot to talk about today. I'm going to be sharing some really important stuff.
There's no argument over the choice between peace and war. But there's only one guaranteed way you can have peace, and you can have it in the next second. Surrender. Admittedly, there's a risk in any course we follow other than this. But every lesson in history tells us that the greater risk lies in appeasement. And this is the specter our well-meaning Christian liberal friends refuse to face. Our priests, our pastors, and now, sadly, even our Pope, that his policy of accommodation is appeasement. And it gives us no choice between peace and war, only between fight and surrender. If we continue to accommodate, continue to back and retreat, eventually we will have to face the final demand, the final ultimatum, and what then? When Satan has told his own, he knows what our answer is going to be. He has told them that we're retreating under the pressure of his Cold War, and someday when the time is right, to deliver his final ultimatum, our surrender will be voluntary, because you see, by then we will have been so weakened from within, spiritually, morally, economically. He believes this because from our side he's heard voices pleading for peace at any price. Or better red than dead, or as one commentator put it, he'd rather live on his knees with his mask on than die on his feet. And therein lies the road to war. Because those voices don't speak for the rest of us. You and I know it and do not believe that life is so dear and peace so sweet as to be purchased the price of chains and slavery. If nothing in life is worth dying for, well, when did this begin? Just in the face of this enemy? Or should Moses have told the children of Israel to live in slavery under the Pharaohs? Should Christ have refused the cross? Should the patriots at Concord Bridge have thrown down their guns and refused to fire the shot heard around the world? The martyrs of history were not fools. And our beloved dead, who gave their lives to stop the advance of the Nazis, did not die in vain. Where then lies the road to peace, you say? Well, it's a simple answer after all. That you and I have the courage to tell our enemies, there is a price we will not pay. There is a point beyond which evil must not advance. My fellow Americans, you and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We're at war now with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars. And it's been said, if we lose this war, and in so doing lose this great way of freedom of ours, history will record with the greatest astonishment that those of us that had the most to lose did the least to prevent it from happening. Well, I think it's high time now we ask ourselves if we still even know the freedoms that were intended for us by our founding fathers. Every generation of Americans needs to know That freedom exists not to do what you like, but having the right to do what you ought. Set yourselves apart from this corrupt generation. Be saints. We weren't made to fit in. We were born to stand out. Kind of reminds me of the words that Mel Gibson first intoned in his Academy Award-winning film Braveheart, when he said to his ragtag army, and I say to you tonight, I see before me a whole army of my countrymen here in defiance of tyranny. You've come to fight as free men, and free men you are. What will you do without freedom? Will you fight? This man says, no, we'll run and we'll live. Yep, fight and you may die. Run and you'll live. For at least a while. And dying in your beds many years from now, would you have been willing to trade all the years from this day to that for one chance? Just one chance to come back here and tell our enemies that you can take our lives, that you can never take our freedom. Every man dies. Not every man truly lives. You. We must fight for that authentic freedom and live, my friends. By God, we must live. And with the Holy Spirit as your shield and Christ as your sword, may you join Saint Michael and all the angels in defending God and sending Lucifer and his henchmen straight right back to hell where they belong. We are headed into the storm of all storms. Yes. The storm is upon us, but not without Jesus, our rudder. And in the words of Reagan, evil is powerless if the good are unafraid. God bless you.
Absolutely beautiful. This one's definitely gonna make me cry.
That your name may not appear down here in this world's Hall of Fame. In fact, you may be so unknown that no one knows your name. The Oscars and the praise of men may never come your way, but don't forget God has rewards that he'll hand out someday. This crowd on earth, they will soon forget when you're not at the top. They'll cheer like mad until you fall, and then their praise will stop. Not God, he never does forget. And in his Hall of Fame, by just believing on his Son, forever there's your name. I tell you, friend, I wouldn't trade my name, however small, that's written there beyond the stars in that celestial hall. For all the famous names on earth of the glory that they share, I'd rather be an unknown here and have my name up there. Your name may not appear down.
Oh, man. You gotta fight for what's good. You gotta fight for what's good. If good men do nothing, evil prevails. Those are Jim's words. Those are Reagan's words. Those are my words. Those are the words of truth. That's Jesus's entire message. Why do you think he had no tolerance for Pharisees? I know a lot of you don't believe in astrology, and I don't know, but we're in the age of Aquarius, and this is the year of exposure. Cat Williams said it, man. He's right. I don't agree with 90% of what he says, but he's got some stuff figured out. You know, God is so good. God is so good, and I have so much faith. So with that said, I've been getting a lot of questions about some of my old beliefs compared to some of my new beliefs. Something I want to make very clear, guys, is like I'm not like some people, like Billy was saying, I'm bought off by the Christians or something. I don't know what he's talking about. That's new information for me. But, you know, Billy's perspective on Christianity is not the true one, in my opinion. He doesn't even understand something as simple as, well, the Trinity's not simple by any means, but he doesn't even understand the Trinity. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about denominations. This is not my area of expertise. I can tell you why I ended up in the Orthodox Christian faith, which is pre-denomination. This is not the Roman Catholic Church. This is pre all of that, okay? So a lot of people don't even know the Orthodox Church is a thing here in the West, but it is, and I love it because it's sacred, and it's powerful, it's beautiful, and it's nothing like mega church Christianity, okay? Not even the same religion. That's a different religion. And don't get me wrong, like there was a time in my life where like people like Joel Osteen and these guys were a stepping stone towards the Bible and Jesus and whatnot, but everyone's got their journey and their process, and I'm not here to tell you what God to worship, what God to believe in. That's not my place. My job is to tell you my personal experience, what I found to be true, and that's it. So I want to recommend 3 very important books for people who are curious. These are not Christian books, if you will. One of them is, I guess, but The other two are written by saints, okay? Now, I love the saints. The saints are awesome to me because they're relatable and they weren't thousands of years ago. They were modern time saints. Like a saint in the Orthodox tradition is named Saint Seraphim Rose. He just literally, like weeks ago, I believe, got canonized as an official saint in the Orthodox faith. So, this is a new saint. He was actually a student of a man named Alan Watts. Okay, so a lot of time. Anton Wisbicki here. I have officially run out of money for water. Officially. All my money is now going to legal fees for a defamation lawsuit because I've told nothing but the truth, the only truth, allegedly, sarcastically. Sometimes when I'm speaking and doing research on people like William Carlson, I kind of make some things up and then exaggerate it and then gaslight my followers with ChatGPT and stuff. So if you're new here, hi, Anton. Nice to meet you. I'm a con artist. I'm a liar. I'm a leader of a cult. I'm pretty much just a nobody. I've never done anything in real life. And welcome to my channel where I talk about things that are fairy tale, imagination, not rooted in anything verifiable, any history, no documents. I don't even know anything. Everything I've said is a lie. So I'm really going to need the money. So if you could subscribe, if you could like, if you could please. So, this is a new saint. He was actually a student of a man named Alan Watts. Okay, so a lot of New Age people will know who Alan Watts is. But I want to recommend to you 3 really important books if you just want to learn more. Okay, you want to learn more about Christ. You want to learn more about the mystical aspects of Christianity. That's something I'm very drawn to. I believe in the gifts of the Spirit. I've seen them. I've felt them. I know they're real. Spiritual warfare is real. All this stuff is really real. And when you have a deep understanding of the mystical aspects of Christianity and that the Spirit cannot be contained per se, and that there is a mystical aspect to all of this. It's not dry, if you will. Then I think New Agers and people in the occult, they can start to see, maybe there is something more that I was missing because I never looked into something like Orthodoxy, which is a little bit more progressive than a lot of Christianities, I will say, because there's like thousands of sectors, which is a problem in itself. But, I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about my own experience. So the first book I'm going to recommend, bada boom, bada bang. Okay, this is called Orthodoxy in the Religion of the Future. It talks about the different types of gods and how they are not all created equal. That's a common thing I keep hearing from people. Look, like if you're studying in Hinduism and you're doing Hinduistic practices to worship, you're likely worshiping Brahman. Do I have a problem with that? No, not at all. I have Hindu friends. But you can't say you're worshiping Jesus when it's actually Brahman. These are different things, which is fine. Everyone has their place. But it even talks about aliens, this book. Yes, this book talks about aliens. Again, he was a student of Alan Watts, and he kind of shows how there's a lot of deception happening, even in the Christian faith, which I agree with 90% of every word in that book without even reading it. So I knew everything in that book is things I've discovered on my own, but this is a saint who can tell it to you way better than I can. So I'll let him do that. I'll share my own perspectives as well, but highly, highly recommend. Book number 2 this is one of my favorites. It's called The Gurus, the Young Man, and Elder Paisios. Elder Paisios, Saint Paisios, he is a saint in the Orthodox Christian faith. Just a beautiful soul. You can feel his love through the text, like true embodiment of Christ. And this story is very profound for anybody who has dabbled in esoteric practices, whether it be hypnotism, getting initiated into certain types of supernatural Hindu practices like I have. The story is actually written by somebody who is anonymous. So that tells you how real, in my opinion, it really is, because I understand why he wants his identity not disclosed, because he puts some people on blast. And he talks about certain Indian gurus that he would sit with and meditate with, and he was just a seeker. He's a seeker of truth. So he went to highs and lows to look for truth. I really relate to this story. It's actually the first book my priest recommended to me because it's like my story. And he did the same thing I did. So he goes into all of the we'll just kind of blanket statement it, even though it's not true. We'll just call it Eastern mysticism. He goes deep into that. Then he runs into this Christian saint, and the Christian saint kind of helps him overcome some of the weird challenges he's having spiritually and doesn't know why. And the saint just like gives him the understanding of Christ through a mystical lens. Okay. So then the young man, that's why it's called the young man, is a little naive, a little ignorant, a little stubborn, a little prideful. So he says, screw that saint. He doesn't know anything. The Indian gurus are way more wise. So then he goes back to study with the Indian gurus. And then eventually he lands back at the Orthodox Christian faith. And I just want to read you something from here really quickly because I think you'll find this fascinating. Okay, so it's a little long, but just listen along. She told me that through the practiced yoga from time to time, she found certain errors in it and considered it to be an inferior path to the one she followed. The mind control seminar, she told me, was for beginners. If someone wanted to advance, he would have to find a personal teacher. She then began to speak to me about her own teacher, who lived in France. I gathered that he was a follower of Gurdjieff, one of the gurus. She said that he helped her a great deal, although she had to pay him a considerable sum. She worked at least 12 hours a day apart from the seminar and would meet her teacher 4 or 5 times a year and give him nearly all her money. She considered her connection with him to be worth such price. Now, I could see that Maria was a bright young woman. She had a law degree and she had traveled many places and couldn't understand why she would give her teacher all of her annual earnings. I also wondered, what kind of spiritual teacher would drive such a harsh bargain? I thought of Christ, who I always considered to have been a spiritual teacher of mine, telling the first disciples, freely you have received, freely give. And I thought of Elder Paisios, who followed this teaching to the letter. In any event, having heard her views and suggestions, I again posed the question, why did the demon appear in my mind? She smiled kindly and said, apparently, the polarity of you and yourselves attracted him. In other words, she maintained that I was somehow organically related to the devil at a cellular level. I found such an explanation astonishing. So why did the demons appear to Christ? I asked her. She started to squirm, and she said, you ask such difficult questions. And with that, she left. I surmised from her comments that she had 2 aims, to bring me in contact with her teacher and to convince me that I had a connection with the demon I had seen, and a connection I should look at in a more positive light. Okay? So a little cliffhanger, but I'm trying to get you to read this book. It is so good. So even if you're not a Christian, even if you're into the mystical stuff, like it's good. Because again, if you call yourself a truth seeker, you can at least appreciate the mystical aspects of Christianity. And the third one, dun, 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 no surprise here, the Bible, okay? There's a lot of different versions of the Bible. The one I have right now is the Orthodox Study Bible. And again, read the Bible. I mean, it's really good no matter what faith you are or relate with. I would personally start in the New Testament, start with the 4 Gospels, and just take it from there. Again, like I've been saying, if you call yourself a truth seeker, you just got to consider the text. I'm happy to keep sharing my recommendations. I'm not going to try to be too much of a teacher because, hey, I can tell you what is not of God. I'm still learning a lot of ways about all of this, but I've always wanted to be a teacher. I've always wanted to be a guide. I felt like that was my calling from a very young age. And although I still like that and want that, I don't feel fully confident in that right now because of what I've been going through and some of the change of my beliefs and how I'm still learning, and I think you should always be a student. So I can point you to the resources I'm learning from so you can learn from like saints in the Bible and other people versus like me who is not a saint. Okay. Now we're going to talk about and react to the full debate with Billy, Wesley, and Mark. because I thought last night was fascinating, and there's some new context that was added to all of this, and things I didn't know about. So I want to add that new lens to this so that I can make sure I'm being up to date, if you will.